online broadcast network, Afterbuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. Afterbuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Let's go, everybody. Welcome on into the AfterBuzz TV After Show for Homeland Season 5, the season finale, Episode 12, entitled A False Glimmer. And you're hearing the theme song of The Godfather right now because a certain scene in this episode certainly reminded me of The Godfather, and we'll get into that. But welcome on in, everybody. I am your lead host, Frank Maiorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M. Stephanie Garrett could not make it tonight. Unfortunately, we miss her. Stephanie, hope that she's out there doing well. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at StephanieG3360. But luckily, I am joined by, the smartest person I know, which is Julian Dujarric.
Hi. What an episode. You can follow me, by the way, all across the board on all social media at Julian Dujarric. The Godfather is perfect for this episode, season finale.
Now you see why the violin you gotta have.
Okay.
It's very
We're having a little back and forth before going on the air about, whether we want to hear the guitar first or the...
You want to hear the violin.
Or the violin.
It's part of it.
And now we're here.
We've got a great episode to discuss. Wow. I mean, what a finale.
Yeah.
This is why we watched this show. Just full of a lot of surprises.
Oh, yeah.
Things that I was not expecting coming into it. But as always, we like to start our show with our social media shout-outs. So you guys can use that hashtag even now. Use that hashtag ABTV Homeland. We are going through your comments as we speak and reading off what we find most valuable or interesting this week. So I just want to start with Twitter. We had some funny tweet interactions tonight. Some people live tweeting the East Coast feed, and now I want to highlight a couple people here. First of all is Kerry Driscoll at PSU Kerry. She's watching, as the episode's going along, she goes, well, Jonas is definitely forgiving, isn't he? Mm-hmm. 3 minutes later, she says, oh, never mind. He just wanted one last piece before he broke up with her.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That was so funny.
Because he's going back to what's familiar. And I wrote that about Kerry, but I forgot that Kerry still wants Jonas. I actually wrote in my notes, Kerry's going back to what's familiar. Kerry doesn't care about Jonas, but it turns out it was the opposite.
Yeah, interesting.
Not that he doesn't care,
right,
but
I mean, there's breakup sex,
yeah.
And I think that's kind of what that was.
Yeah.
Kerry didn't know that's what it was, but Jonas did.
Because Kerry, that nobody breaks up with Kerry.
Julian has some problems with Kerry that we're going to get into in a moment, which is coloring all his commentary right now as we go through this one. So that was really funny. A couple other really funny tweets. G-Wiz at Mr_G_Wiz said, Saul is that dude.
Yeah.
Great
yeah.
I mean, enough said right there, right? Saul is that dude. I loved the negotiation scene between him and Yvonne. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite scenes of this episode, even though it was not action-packed. It was just two guys talking about ideas and roles. But I thought that was really interesting. Two very powerful people. Yvonne, considering what his options are, obviously is faced with a very powerful foe, and Saul pushes the right buttons to get him to reveal where Allison is located. What do you think of that scene?
It's the best. It's those situations, those scenes in which Saul and another equally intelligent or super intelligent person go back and forth, not necessarily in an aggressive way, but at all. For me, are just some of my favorite scenes in Homeland.
Yeah.
With Saul's character specifically. I love it.
And this is Saul and Saul's character at his best.
Yeah.
When he is quietly powerful, not screaming and throwing Allison against the wall and getting all emotional. It's when he is just completely in control, knows he has the leverage, and is able to correctly play and push the right buttons to get what he wants.
Just the intellectual spar for me is just a treat.
Yes.
I love that.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Because that's, I like doing that too.
Absolutely.
So, it's always fun for me to banter back and forth with someone. So it's great to see that on screen. And done so well.
Speaking of bantering back and forth, I heard there was some interaction on YouTube. So what'd you see out there?
Listen, I'm very opinionated, and you guys are very opinionated, and sometimes we differ in opinion. And I'll actually get to that in a second, but I want to start on a positive note.
Sure.
And I'll say, because I think this is a valid point, Sean Pham on YouTube commented about Laura Sutton, because we were talking about Laura and how we both mutually have certain feelings about Laura.
Can't stand her.
Well, yeah. Sean Pham says, Laura represents, excuse me, let me enunciate, everyone on social media responding to world events, the ones who see what they want to see instead of seeing things for how they really are.
That's a good point.
And it's a very good point, yeah.
I think that's true. I think I've heard of this notion called #heroes.
Yeah.
You know, when
social
people
justice warrior kind of,
people see negative events and they use hashtags to try and bring about whatever their political beliefs are. It's like, yeah, where were you yesterday saying the same thing? All of a sudden you're using this event for your political gain. So I think that's a really smart point.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with him on that front. Kilmer5 and I had a little back and forth. Look, we encourage anyone to give their honest opinions, and we actually like it because I feel like it makes the discussion much richer.
Sure.
Kilmer5 says, thank God none of you are responsible for the safety of anyone but yourselves. That whole hospital discussion on how poor Quinn shouldn't be awakened. One versus tens of thousands of, assuming he means one life, Quinn's life being disrupted in that way versus tens of thousands of people being injured in the train station. I understand that.
I guess that's a good argument.
It's a valid argument. I responded by saying, I'm curious if you really think Quinn would have been able to even formulate a cohesive sentence, let alone, give tangible or actionable intelligence.
Well, and you made a good point last week on the show where you said when someone wakes me up, when I wake up in the morning, if someone asks you a question as soon as you wake up, you're like, what? I'm just waking up right now. He's coming out of a coma.
Yeah.
So that furthers your point to say it's tough to formulate a thought, after such traumatic body damage, which we saw further this week.
For sure.
Where he was completely in the hospital the whole time.
I just want to say, just a disclaimer, Kilmer5, I'm not criticizing you in any way. I love that you have a difference of opinion and that we were able to do that. And I encourage anyone, please, this is a safe space. Comment honestly and give us your real opinions, because I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that enriches the experience.
Sure. Great comments out on YouTube, and like Julian was saying, you guys, I know this is the last episode of the season, but anytime you can reach out and engage, we'd like to have that fun back and forth. Okay, one last social media shout out, which is going to transition us into the episode.
Okay.
Chemistry PhD at ChemDoc just sent this in on Twitter. She said, how did Kerry not hit the canister of sarin while shooting? Come on.
They were so close.
I hadn't even thought of that when Kerry was shooting, but I did want to talk about the beginning of the episode because it felt like it resolved itself super quickly. We didn't see any more interior shots of the train station, any panic that was happening. I felt like I wanted the tension to build up a little bit more, and it just felt too easy. Kerry's down there. She talks to Kasim. Kasim goes to talk to BB and tries to convince him. Doesn't happen. BB shoots him. Kasim comes back. Kerry shoots them both.
Well, there was a lot of loose ends that needed to be tied up.
Yeah.
And I kept saying over the last maybe 3 or 4 weeks, like there are a lot of plot branches that we need to explore, and we only have 4 episodes left. 3 episodes, 2 episodes. This is the season finale.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and I don't know, I'm not in the writer's room obviously, but I feel like they didn't have enough time to really give do it justice.
Well, I thought if you're going to end it this way, then do it last week, where you have, and this is normally the case now in 12 or 13 episode seasons, is the penultimate episode is the one that is the climax for that season, and then you have falling action and then resolution in the actual final episode of the season. Remember Game of Thrones season 1, Ned Stark gets his head chopped off on the second to last episode, and then you come back next week and be like, was it real? And so I thought
never seen Game of Thrones, not even once.
Oh gosh,
I've seen one episode, the very first of the pilot.
Well, then
I know
we have nothing to talk about.
I have to get on board.
So my point being that I would have thought, if this is the way that you are going to end the season, go ahead and finish off that terrorist attack last week.
I agree.
And then come back this week and spend some more time on tying up the loose ends, maybe a little bit more chase with Allison, which we'll get into in a minute. But what do you think of that terrorist attack? Did you think it wrapped up too quickly, or...
Yeah, absolutely.
Or other than, like you said, there's a lot to get to plot-wise.
Yeah, I think it wrapped up too quickly, and I think if they gave time to other aspects, like other plots within this episode, they gave that more time. And I think if they would have built the terrorist plot a little more, they still could have tied up loose ends in other areas, and it still would have been... we would have felt good about it, and not empty in some way.
That's very true. But that being said, I thought the scene
this is coming from someone who's not a writer, so they're probably like, if any of the writers are watching, like, okay, jackass, like you try writing a series.
Exactly. Neither one of us are qualified to criticize, but as fans, we are. I'm sure they aren't above criticism and constructive thought about the episode.
Right.
But I did really like the interaction between Kasim and Bibi, and you actually said it to me while we were watching the show. You're like, quick bet, is he going to shoot him? And I said no. I was going to say no, but obviously Bibi shot him before I could answer, so I actually thought Kasim had changed his mind.
Yeah, me too.
Didn't happen. So
that's why I asked. I was like, I wonder if it's gonna happen. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, it was really well written, and the acting was good enough that we saw a little bit of a pause in Bibi's character. So it made me think, he might have convinced him. He might have done that. Because as soon as Kasim was like, I'll go talk to him and I'll get him to change his mind, I was like, no way.
Yeah,
you're not going to convince Bibi to change his mind.
Yeah, and I mean, I just said it was a surprise to me. It shouldn't have been a surprise, based on the previous episode where he said, and I'm paraphrasing heavily, basically, if you don't do what I say, I'm killing you.
Yeah,
and he's I guess Bibi's a man of his word.
Yeah. It was sad to see. I really like Kasim's character this season.
Yeah,
really identified with him. A great portrayal by the actor. You could see into his heart. Through his eyes. I mean, it felt like when he's in these high-stakes moments, his eyes would get a little bit watery and glassy, like he was on the edge of tears, almost questioning himself, what am I doing in this situation? Yeah. So I really loved tracking that character all throughout this season, when he helped Quinn, and now when he ultimately tried to stop this attack on thousands of people.
And those are the best types of characters, that are the ones that are conflicted, that have motives that are incongruent with their actions, that have a moral compass that's indicative of a struggle with what they're being asked or what they ultimately do.
Yeah,
what being asked to do or ultimately do. So I agree with you on that front. I love his character because of how conflicted he was, because it's relatable. We all have, I mean, not to this degree, hopefully we're not committing terrorist acts, but we all have conflicting feelings about a number of different things. Yeah, so it's good to see that.
It was nice to see that, absolutely. And his interaction with Kerry trusts him.
Yeah,
Kerry goes down there by herself.
Crazy.
I mean, this is the dichotomy of Kerry. She takes incredible risks that pay off with saving thousands of people, but at the same time has a personality that is so off-putting to the people around her, personally, not professionally, that she's ultimately unwanted by Jonas. And though I maybe should take this back, because after we saw Otto During's surprise partnership proposal, I may have to take that back. But I guess my point was, Kerry is excellent at this like small segment, this specialized segment of work, and she's horrible at the interpersonal stuff and the rest. I'm sure you agree with me on that.
I agree, and I think it was more. I think for me, it's less about Kerry, and I was having a conversation with another Afterbuzzer about this, and I think the reason why I'm so critical of Kerry is that in some weird way I kind of relate to her, because I mean I have some kind of narcissistic tendencies of my own, and I see those reflected. I'm being very honest, I see those reflected, not to that degree, but it's I don't know, it's frustrating to see that. The bad side, the sort of not so endearing qualities of a human being that you relate with, and I guess that's why I get so
That's interesting that you
charged.
say that. I've heard that before where
I'm in a very it's Sunday, so I'm very reflective today. You know?
where people who are alike don't get along
Mm-hmm.
well because they are the same personality type, and you would normally need someone who's opposite of you or who has different qualities in order to get along. Is that kind of what you mean by that?
Yeah, and also what I get upset about is not the action, like the risks that she takes. It's that they always pay off, and I don't think that's realistic.
Okay.
I don't think no one is always right.
Well, she wasn't right with Jonas this episode. I mean,
Well,
like,
I mean, if we're talking specifically like a workplace,
yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
then she's not. No, I mean, of course, you just said her interpersonal relationships are. I mean, they're abysmal. They're terrible. They are. Her personal life is a mess. But when it comes to work, nobody gets it right 100% of the time, and I think that's at the core my gripe.
Okay.
More so, beyond relating to her in some weird way, at the core it seems inauthentic to me.
Okay.
I'm not an intelligence expert, but it doesn't seem like she can get it right. Like that doesn't seem realistic.
I think some of that is suspension of disbelief. We have to believe this is our hero in this show.
I mean,
And that
Homeland.
she's taking care of this and is on top of these sort of terrorist attacks. But at the same time, I felt for Jonas when Kerry's talking about, hey, let's get back together, things will be just like what they were. And I'm like, no, there's no way you can go back after that. Kerry brushed him aside. His child was kidnapped because he knew Kerry. I thought that was a totally valid point.
I agree.
And Jonas is like, I can't forget that. I can't just forget. Like, I care about you. And I think what he's doing and what he said was, I'm doing you a favor. Can't you see this is the best for both of us? And I think he's right. I think when you're in a relationship with somebody like that, where you don't know what's coming around the corner, I mean, how could he ever trust her again where he can, not think that whatever next attack or threat comes, then she'll just, be gone again quickly. And
he can't. He
No.
absolutely can, and it's been proven to him, even in that conversation. The fact that she's even bringing this up again shows that she does not understand how dangerous it is for her to be around him, for him. The danger lies in he's the one in danger. I don't really think Kerry considers risks. I mean, I know she doesn't.
Yes.
So for me, it's like, of course, it makes sense. And like I said, the fact that it's being brought up again, it's just further indicative of how selfish she is.
Well, she certainly does think about her work first, sends Franny off to the U.S., forgets about Quinn until after Jonas rejects her, which I thought was really lame. I mean, once Jonas, you notice the episode occurs and she goes back to Jonas first, goes back to his place, and then he says, no, get out of here, I'm breaking up with you. And then she goes to meet up with Quinn.
But it's not about work. It is about Kerry. Because work, you can do that. I mean, she's doing the work outside of the CIA, right? It's not about the work. It's about a satisfaction that Kerry gets from the work, right? So it's a selfish thing.
Yeah,
when they're having that conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think what I'm talking about is exactly what you're saying. The self-centered focus on work versus her like lack of interpersonal understanding. Okay. Understanding what she's putting people around her through. She has physically damaged Quinn by choosing to have the doctor, wake him up. And now it's been even worse. He had to go in. I can't remember what all the things the doctor was saying, but hematoma or whatever the medical terms are that I won't try to pronounce. But she's physically damaged him, emotionally damaged Jonas. Her daughter, who knows how Franny is going to grow up with her absent mother.
Oh, yeah.
She's leaving a trail of people and feelings and hurt that have really left people in bad spots.
And it brings us such a hypocritical thing to then say, oh, I have to be a mother now. Like, now?
Right.
What's the difference now? I mean, you weren't a mother before, so I guess she's you can make an argument that she's trying to make amends, but I just don't believe her anymore. I don't believe her. I don't believe that she actually wants a personal life.
Well, then let me ask you real quick. Do you think she will ultimately come back to the CIA and accept Saul's offer? Okay.
Yeah. Or I don't, maybe not necessarily accept Saul's offer, but she's definitely still in the game.
I was surprised that she said no to him when Saul said, hey, you're coming back and you're going to be a part of this. I would have thought that through this process, she would have self-discovered that she loves the thrill.
I wasn't surprised that she said no to Saul. I'm surprised that she didn't immediately say yes to Otto.
For the marriage proposal?
Well, I mean, it's ambiguous. We don't know if it's a marriage proposal or if it's a. I mean, it's a business partnership.
You said it.
I said marriage.
He put his hand on top of her and looked her in the eyes and said, "I need a partner to go around the world with,"
and share my life with. Yeah,
which is totally unexpected,
yeah,
strange, not shown really at any point during this season.
Yeah. And you can argue that they're already partners, and to some degree, right? They're
business partners.
Business partners,
in
in that way, they're kind of already. He depends on her heavily for a lot.
Yeah, but he's
business-wise.
He's talking about a few weeks ago how he was going to fire her and wasn't going to come back, and told Jonas that he's going to move on. Remember the scene out at the farm? He's like, we're not going to renew her contract, and we're going to get rid of her. And now all of a sudden,
what was the change of heart? Where did that come from?
I have no idea. That's a real mystery to me. If you guys out there know or have any thoughts on where the during proposal came from, use that hashtag ABTV Homeland. Tag me and Julian in it on Twitter.
Please.
I would love to hear what your theories are on that, because I'm genuinely stumped. This came out of nowhere for me. I mean, obviously they were having a real sexy dinner together, and
a little
she's
red
pouring
wine
and with her big doughy eyes going toward Otto. But it didn't make a lot of sense to me why he sees her as such a wild card and yet now wants to be with her.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means in his own way. So really interesting. I like that plot point.
Yeah, I do too. It'd be interesting to see where they go with that
next season.
Yeah.
Let me take a quick time out to remind you guys to subscribe to us on iTunes. Obviously, this is the last episode of this season, but if you subscribe to us now, you'll be all set for next season when we come back for Homeland. Also, give us a comment underneath the YouTube page and give us a big like, a thumbs up, please. We love hearing from everybody. And want to remind us.
I'm coming back for at least the first episode to see if Quinn's still alive, because we don't know. I mean, he's technically still alive.
That's right.
At this point, so
he's technically still alive on life support. And let's wrap up the Kerry discussion with her Quinn interaction. And we got a great email a few weeks back that was sent into our Afterbuzz offices and forwarded to us as a team. And I want to read this because this person perfectly predicted what was going to happen. This came on December 11th. Okay, so this was, a week ago? A little bit more?
About.
This is from Alice Allred. She said, maybe that letter that Quinn wrote to Kerry last season will get to her because that guy thought he was dead after seeing the gas video.
I forgot that there was a letter.
Yeah, I mean, you forget that little note, but nothing on Homeland goes for naught.
Yeah.
It's not, when it's a significant point of focus, they don't forget it. And that is a 100% spot-on prediction. I mean, very, very smart thinking out there that, the letter came back to her. And Quinn expresses his emotions, which you had a problem with. It sort of made you uncomfortable to have Quinn gushing that way. Or did I read you wrong?
No, I didn't have a problem with it. I think I was reacting to just the edit. I don't know that I actually was for it. When she first starts to read the letter, as anyone reads, that you read it in your head and you have a voice that's assimilated, that's appropriated to the words that you're reading. Yeah. In this case, Quinn, and then Saul comes in and interrupts her reading, and so the voice was interrupted. I just thought that was a great way to.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was cool, because they could have written it differently. They could have had the Saul and Kerry interaction happen after she's finished reading the letter or whatnot. But I just thought that was really interesting and really, really cool.
Well, and because I think it's symbolic of their work coming between them.
Yeah. Right.
So Saul enters while they're having a.
It's a great point, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, where they're, connecting emotionally, but it just doesn't work. They just can't do it. Well, mostly they didn't get back together. They didn't get together last season because Kerry said that she just isn't right and she would damage Quinn. Well, you did it anyway, girl, so you should have at least taken advantage of the opportunity there.
And she has a quote I wrote down, "Did we do this to him?" when she's in the hospital room.
Yeah. And
I'm like, yes, you did that to him. This is your fault.
But it's more than just the asking if Kerry has hurt him in this specific situation?
No,
I think that was a global question.
Yeah, in general. I got there's a point to be made about the specific incident and in general. I mean, they even said Dar Adal. He said that Quinn was recruited when he was 16 years old and he was a perfect candidate, and so they groomed him to be this sort of Sicario that he ultimately became. So yes, absolutely on all fronts. Yeah, you did that to him.
Crazy. Crazy story.
Yeah,
I love the way they left it. I'm excited to see what happens with Quinn. I hope the network executives over at Showtime forgive Rupert Friend for whatever he did and allow him to not get beat up and hospitalized all season long. Next season.
Was he late for a shoot or something?
I mean, something happened. He made somebody mad somewhere along the line.
I can't imagine.
And was punished this. Well, it reminds me of the Entourage episode where Johnny Drama hits a network executive.
Oh yeah.
And then he's like, "I'm gonna," and he makes him like wear this terrible makeup. So it's kind of a funny little reference there to that. But I've got a couple other characters I want to touch on quickly before we move on. I want to talk about Laura Sutton real quick. Peace! Adios! I'm so glad she's gone. Astrid. I loved Astrid this episode. Yeah. She walks in, she arrests Laura, like, get out of here, throws Otto During out. I so loved her. She's a bulldog. Mm-hmm. She's fierce, but she's attractive too. So it's like, yeah, you get them.
Fierce, direct, and I think the juxtaposition of someone who is so direct, but the tonality of their voice is almost mellifluous in a way. Yes. Like it sounds really nice. Yeah. Is petrifying.
Yeah. That's so true. And I love the moment where Laura goes back on camera and basically says what the BND wanted her to say, and Astrid just takes a few steps forward out of the shadows and looks at her, and you can just see it.
Just to make sure.
And then Laura says it, and then she takes a few steps back into the shadows again. Mm-hmm. She doesn't say a word, but we know everything that's going on in her mind in that moment, which was so strong. And you could see Astrid saying, "You better not screw this up, or your guy's going to the guillotine."
Yeah,
the guillotine.
The guillotine. What I was impressed by in that maybe 30-second scene, that part of that scene, was the actress who was playing Astrid was almost mimicking Laura Sutton's words to make sure that she was saying exactly what Laura was instructed to say. I don't know if you noticed that, like her lips were moving.
Oh no, I didn't. Maybe
I'm reading too into it, but I think she was like hanging on every single word. Yeah. And if that was a deliberate thing, if that was done on purpose, then kudos, because I think it was very effective.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. Yeah. I loved that whole scene. You get to see two, again, very powerful women in this case. You had Saul and Yvonne going at it in the interrogation room, and then you have Astrid and Laura doing the same. And ultimately, it is the people who are a part of the intelligence agencies who are winning these arguments. Saul wins against Yvonne, makes a very good pitch to Yvonne and says, I'm being very generous right now, and I'm not going to make this offer to you again. And it was so good. So good. And then Astrid says, your friend, we've got your friend. And we can send him back to Turkey, where he's been declared an enemy of the state. And that'll be the end of him. But she's so quiet and reserved, and like you say, has that non-threatening voice, I would say. She just kind of plainly states the facts and waits for Laura to react.
It takes a second when that happens, because it sounds kind of sweet, and you're thinking, oh, this isn't so bad. But then the meaning, what the person is actually saying registers. Yeah. And then it shakes you to your core.
Absolutely.
It's the best way.
I love that. That's a great point. Yeah, she was awesome. I'm glad Laura Sutton got her comeuppance. Stephanie predicted that last week, by the way. She said it's about to get very dark for Laura Sutton, and it did. She got arrested, she got put in a cell, and she had to go say something that is totally against what she believes. And you can see the struggle while she was on camera doing it, but I loved every minute. Like, yeah, Laura, that's what you get.
You go. Yeah. I thought it was really confusing to me how she went back to the During Foundation after she publicly just put all this out there and didn't secure her asset, right?
What do you mean? What would you think she should have done?
I mean, I don't know that it's clearly not the safest place to go back to the During Foundation is not the safest place to go back to if you are now, kind of fanning the flames or taunting the bull, as whatever analogy you want to use. When I first saw Laura Sutton in her office, I was like, why? I think I said this out loud. Like, why did she go back?
Yeah, I don't think she feared retaliation, and this speaks to her character, right?
What protection did she think she had?
She didn't think she needed it, right? If she goes out and says these things, and no one's going to come after her, or maybe she just didn't care. But it's the brazenness of the character to, exactly as you say, just put her in a position where everybody would know where she was, and you can't forget her data was there too. This is the part where I think you're right. Is if you know that ultimately you're going to get arrested or something's going to happen, get your files out of that safe and save them. Ultimately, she asked Newman to release them if anything happened to her, but they got Newman too. Yeah, they had a hacker on their team, and they found out where Newman was. Gabe H. Cood on the that was his username on the internet. So they found him too, and ultimately Laura did not protect him at all.
She wasn't thinking.
I mean, destroy that stuff.
She was suffering from. I don't even know if there's a word for it, but she liked the fame. I feel like she liked the fame aspect of this whole thing. She liked being on camera. She liked the attention that she was getting, and she was hiding behind this sort of nobility factor of being a journalist and speaking truth to power, in her words.
Yeah, I
don't really think her agenda was noble. I think it was all about self-righteousness. Yeah,
exactly. If there's one a hyphenated word I would say about Laura, it would be that she thinks she's very self-righteous, that I am right and everyone else is wrong. And look what happens. I mean, she's gonna get kicked out of the country. She's not allowed to stay anymore, but Newman is safe. So at least she protected him in the end. Okay, so let's move on to Allison, who is our final topic here. She died in a Sonny from The Godfather type of way, right? Saul sets it up to where, now this is where I was surprised. I didn't think they were going to shoot him up and then Allison was going to be dead. I thought Saul just kind of wanted to arrange it with the Russians so that the Russians would drive for a certain point, and then they get out of the car, and then we'd get Allison back into custody. I was completely shocked that we've got agents popping out in the forest and blowing everybody away.
Do you think those were Russian agents, though?
That's a good point. I don't know if they were Russian agents, but if they weren't Russian agents, then...
Just considering, I only asked that considering the relationship between the U.S. and Russia, that's all.
But remember, Russia was unafraid to let a terrorist attack go forward. So they're not worried about their own people. So I think either it was Russian agents who shot it up or American agents with the cooperation of Russia, because Ivan obviously set the whole thing up for Saul in order that Ivan can go to Jackson Hole, Wyoming and go skiing all the time. But they got Allison, and wow, I did not expect her to go out that way.
Yeah, me neither. I said, what did I say? I said they switched cars.
Yes.
Just because it seemed like too easy. I don't know, but I'm still glad it happened that way. It transpired in that way.
Yeah.
But what a way to go.
Yeah.
What a way to go.
You knew as soon as she got in the trunk, there was no way she was getting out.
Done.
Yeah, it was crazy. I saw her and I didn't feel bad for her.
No, of course not.
I saw Saul look at her and I didn't see any emotion in him. Like, oh well, this is someone who deceived me. I mean, in the worst way. I mean, with his heart, like his emotion, but to come on to somebody, it's a brutal game.
I saw an emotion. I saw a catharsis. I saw a relief. I saw.
Okay.
He found reprieve. He found closure.
Okay.
I feel like
you do.
Yeah.
Because he stood by and watched her get shot up.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I don't condone that, but I think it's understandable, is it not?
Understandable for what? For him to see her dead.
For him to want to see her dead, right?
Well, because everything was fake. Everything about their interaction was fake. Which was made clear, and I made this point a few episodes ago. Like once Saul was gone, Allison bangs a guy the next night on her kitchen countertop. So that was the big clue for Saul, and it hurt him a lot more than it. It didn't bother her at all because it wasn't real. To her, it was just part of the job. And Yvonne tells Saul that it was my idea. You were recently divorced, and you'd be blinded by emotion and love, which is a brilliant idea. But I feel bad for Saul. That was really tough. But ultimately, he gets his catharsis, like you said.
I mean, I felt bad for Saul then, and I still do, that he had to kind of, he's definitely going to have some trust issues if he didn't have them before just by working in the CIA.
Yeah.
But I definitely saw relief in his face.
Okay.
And it's understandable.
Totally
understandable.
Yeah. I mean, Allison has a mild moral indignation as to being held at a halfway house for prostitution. What I didn't really understand what the point of that was. What did that mean to you, that she was staying at a house with people who are being sold into the sex trade?
I don't know that it had,
the Russians were okay with it.
I don't know that it had any more significance than to just add context.
Okay.
That's what I got from it.
Okay.
What's funny to me is I wrote down a quote from Allison that said, because the doctor comes in and starts to make like small talk with Allison and say, "Oh, you must be very important because they asked me to take really good care of you."
Yep.
And she goes, "I am important. F up my shoulder, and I'll see to it that you never practice medicine again."
Yeah. Well, those were her last words. One of her last sentences.
The arrogance of her.
Yeah.
Like just even in those final moments, because she was scot-free supposedly, and so it's great to see her get her what she deserves.
Absolutely. So you enjoyed the shooting scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I was shocked by it. All of a sudden, pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, it was a very elaborate way, right?
Yeah.
It was very, very elaborate, very, very loud.
Very Godfather way.
Very Godfather.
To go. So I thought that was really interesting. All right. Well, any final thoughts? Obviously, we don't have predictions because season 6 is
we could have predictions
away.
for next season,
well,
maybe.
What do you think?
Well, let's go into our predictions.
Okay.
And now, your Afterbuzz TV predictions.
So, remind me again what we have. What are the loose ends?
The loose ends are Kerry and Otto During. What does that mean? Their partnership. Quinn is in bed, sick, on the edge of death.
Yes.
Apparently. What else? We have
Allison's done for, and Laura Sutton is pretty much gone.
Kerry's position offer with the CIA. Is she going to take that?
All right. So I will say that Kerry will not go back to the CIA.
Okay.
She will accept Otto During's proposal. I don't know what that proposal is. I think it's a business proposal. I think Otto During wants a little bit more, but Kerry, I think he's proposing a business relationship, a business partnership on, or he's proposing marriage under the guise of a business relationship. I think they're gonna partner up.
Okay, they're gonna partner up.
Yeah, I think they're gonna partner up.
Marriage-wise?
No, business-wise. Well, initially,
they were in church together in a chapel at one point during the season. Mm-hmm. So maybe we will open season 6 in a chapel again with the two being married. Look, I don't think he goes, I want to spend my life with someone, and for that to be a business partner.
I don't think Kerry gets that. I think Kerry is kind of like confused and like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, you want to be a business partner? Okay. With a little chin. But I think, it'll be a partnership of some kind. I'll just make that prediction.
Interesting.
And then what is the,
let's get a Quinn prediction.
Okay. Quinn. I think they're going to kill Quinn. I think they are.
No.
It's just, there's massive amounts of brain damage.
No.
And he's been under for so long. I don't want that to happen, and I will not watch another episode if it does happen. I'm kidding. I love this show. I'll keep watching, but I think it'll have to affect him in some way if he comes out of it.
Yeah, I think maybe it could be like a Jason Bourne type of storyline where he has amnesia.
Oh boy!
But now Kerry knows because she's got the letter. Look, I can't make any predictions about next season.
Okay.
I just want to talk about how great this season was. Yeah. A real, I thought, turnaround from the past couple seasons where the show has had kind of a struggle in finding its footing post Brody.
Yeah, first 3 seasons were heavily based on that, and then season 4 they had to struggle to find their legs again.
Still interesting, but I thought this season ended up being very relevant with world events, even unintentionally. But it speaks to the creative team's understanding of the world,
Yeah.
to place it in a European city, to have a legitimate threat threatening this whole season with a double agent plot. I thought it was expertly done. I will be back for season 6 to watch it, and I really, really love this one. I hope we get to see Quinn able-bodied next season. That's the one thing that's on my wish list. It's Christmas time, so on my
Santa
wish
come
list,
through.
Santa come through. Let's have Quinn upright, and I find him really, really interesting when he is out doing his work, and he's the Jason Bourne type of character that we know and love. I hope that Kerry comes back to the CIA and just drops the pretense and gets back to being the agent that we all know she is. Whether that's going to be wherever they set the next season, whether it's back in the United States or another European city or back in the Middle East, we don't know. But I hope that she's part of the structure again, trying to take care of another threat.
Well, I agree with you on all fronts.
Good.
I can't. At the very least, I'm excited for the next season, and I too will be back. So I
Julian,
can't wait.
It was great working with you all
Likewise.
season. Tons of smart stuff that you said.
Likewise, and you've
Yeah, thank
captained
you.
this ship very well.
Thank you very much.
Left me nervous to fill your shoes the other week. So
Yeah.
you're a great host, and I love that we get to do this every week. So I
Absolutely.
can't wait to do it again next season.
Thank you, man. And special shout out to Stephanie, who's not here tonight, was a big part of our team and
Yes.
always had some really, really good stuff to say. She was just beginning at AfterBuzz when she came on our show, but I thought she did an incredible job filling in each and every week. So we miss her, but hopefully we'll all be back next season. So that's it. That's all for this season, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We loved all the comments that you sent in on us. Keep it going through next season. As always, he has been Julian Dujarric.
Who you can find all across the board on all social media at Julian Dujarric.
And I am Frank Maiorana. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, everyone. It's been such a pleasure. We thank you so much for tuning in each and every week. Keep tuning in to AfterBuzz for other shows. Julian and I will be on other shows throughout the rest of the year. And we look forward to having you back real soon. Take care now.
Take care.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Afterbuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the Afterbuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterbuzZTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of Afterbuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.